I've a lot planned for this one. There's a lot to unpack for this dev vlog. That's why I'm sitting in my serious chair today. Instead of standing in front of a green screen with mediocre color balancing and bad lighting, I'm sitting on my chair with mediocre color balancing and bad lighting. But it is a new chair, and it's a lot more comfy than that one. Guys, if you're sitting at a desk for hours on end, do yourself a favor and get yourself a good chair. So yeah, new chair, new shirt color that won't interfere with the green screen effect, and some new news. In an effort to get my work balance, life in order, and also push out a little more content, ironically enough, I'm hoping to make these devlogs a little more few and far in between. But meanwhile, every week or so, I want to start uploading just 30-minute cuts of some behind-the-scenes game development content, just so you can have something kind of a chill video to watch. Just see kind of what goes into the project every week or so, and still see kind of where I'm at with the project. This will give me a lot more time for other types of videos I want to do on the channel, as well as other projects I have going on in game development. So stay tuned for those videos, and we'll see how it works. We'll see how it works over the next couple months. Okay, now on to the dev vlog. So the aim for this dev vlog will be to show you a few tweaks to the combat system, as well as some early weapon designs. And along with that, to showcase those will be the new Rune model that I showed you in the second dev vlog. We're going to see that in-game. We're going to see it using some new animations. I'm really excited to show off, especially the combat animations. Pretty stoked about those, so let's get into it. So obviously my first obstacle was that I don't have any references for sword fighting or anything like that. It doesn't need to be anything too detailed since it's just a top-down dungeon crawler game, but still, I knew I needed some references, so I hired an expert, that is me, to jump around with a pen in my room and record it and just get a feel for the movements of how you swing a really tiny sword. Please save the applause for later, this is only scratching the surface of my prowess. So despite having some pretty wacky references and some very bold assumptions for how you swing a sword, I think the animations turned out pretty well in the end. The animations flowed, I was very happy with how the combos paired, but in the end I realized that every time I swung a weapon it lacked some kind of game feel. In other words, the attacks didn't feel too powerful, and they were proving pretty hard to land at times because the anticipation frames were far too prioritized. Yeah, it felt good to smack an orc with a battle axe, but only because you failed those 5 other times while it was beating the tar out of you. So it was back to the drawing board after spending hours on making those animations. I decided to keep my animations close to their original design, but cut down the anticipation and other opening frames. With the exception of the starting combo animations per weapon, I started each animation right at the moment Rune would attack with his weapon. While it sacrificed the flow of the animation visuals, I have to say it feels like I'm actually putting up a fight now. And what I had to deal with next was the awkward combat. For these animations, I chose to use root motion. If you don't know what root motion animation is, think about a treadmill. You're running against a belt, but because it holds you in place, you aren't actually moving. That's what animations are like without root motion. Characters only move when the math tells them to add velocity. When you see a character in a video game walk around, what you're actually seeing is an animation playing while the math tells them to move, giving you the illusion that the walk animation is what's driving the movement. However, there is an actual way to have animation drive the movement on its own, and it's called root motion. When using this, the top bone of the skeletal hierarchy is used to exclusively move the entire character forward. Root motion then recognizes that at the end of the animation we want to apply the movement offered by the root bone. Since I had already set up the combat system to lean more toward original designs of the series, what we end up with is Rune slapping enemies once or twice during combos as he then continues to move past them to leave himself vulnerable. My solution to this issue was to add handicap guides for the player when attacking enemies. When you're within range of an enemy and you initiate an attack, Rune will rotate toward the closest enemy within a specific angle in front of him. Some first-person shooter games make use of a similar mechanic that snaps your cursor to an enemy's head when particular requirements are met to get a headshot.
When you get close to an enemy, when you're inside of the magnetism cone, any movement that this guy does, your reticle would try and follow him.
Maybe you don't notice that it's helping that
Right.
much. Yeah, it just feels like you're that badass.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry to spoil the fun for you, but you aren't as skilled as you think. In practice, the system works. It helps Rune to not miss an enemy by a mere few centimeters, which can otherwise get progressively frustrating as the combat is directly inspired by the original game's intent to keep the player still while performing a combo. Something that also helped this issue were the addition of knockback capabilities. I set it up so that depending on the mass of the enemy or how big they are, they're knocked back away from Rune by a little bit or a lot. The weapon type Rune wields is also factored into the mechanic as well. So the last thing I have to talk about is the death sweep mechanic. And in this mechanic, you see it in a few of the later Rune Factory titles. When you kill an enemy, you can juggle them up in the air a little bit, but if they hit the ground enough times, you can't sweep them back up into the air to juggle them around. They can stay around for a long time until they finally disappear and go to the forest of beginnings, or whatever you want to call it. Whatever your dad told you, wherever your dad told you your dog went. That's the equivalent here. Anyway, when enemies die, they bounce on the ground a few times before disappearing. I implemented the system, and I'm pretty proud of the results. Check them out. It may not look like much, but once I have some ground particles going every time they bounce on the ground, it will be pretty satisfying. So now that I've talked about the mechanics I've been installing in the project, I want to talk about the weapons and tools. After putting together some battle animations, I began work on some exclusive tool animations. I figure this will encourage players to give battle hammers and battle axes an actual shot, since they won't feature the same ineffective movements as their tool counterparts. The tool animations are all rather similar, since Rune will be standing rather close to any boulder, stump, weed, or plant in front of him, and each tool requires that close range attention. This is again why I had them differ from attack animations, which require longer range swings and more progressive movements. Now, not only did I make all of the cheap versions of the tools you just saw, but I also made the other tiers as well. I hope to work on all of the other weapons soon as well. I've already gotten a lot of the battle axes done, I think all of them actually. But I want to know your feedback first. I had someone comment saying, hey, maybe the weapons are just a little too big. What do you think? Are they too big, too bulky? Maybe they're just too long? Alright guys, I think that's it for this video. So if you want to see more, please give this a generous like, share the video, and subscribe for future uploads to the channel. By the way, my brother and I are working in early development of a game called Cutout. I will link the social media descriptions. I will link the social media accounts in the description below, so please go check those out. We're pretty stoked about it. It's basically an RPG inspired by arts and crafts, so everything you look at is going to be based around arts and crafts. Like things you would find in your scrapbook. Your scrapbook drawer? You have a scrapbook drawer? You watching this have your things you would find in your grandma's scrapbook drawer. Look in there, anything you see in there, it's probably going to be in this game, so please go check out those links. If you're interested in learning more about that, I've included those links to the project's new social media pages in the description below. I already said that. Okay, thanks for watching.